People love superhero movies. They're loud, bombastic, completely over the top, and can be unpredictable in how unhinged things can get. People also love Nic Cage. He's loud, bombastic, completely over the top, and unpredictable in how unhinged he can get. Seems like a match made in heaven, right? Maybe hell. We'll find out as we attempt to prove to you that Ghost Rider is not that bad. Welcome, one and all to It's Not That Bad, the podcast that looks for A grades in B movies. And we are going to get a double dip of fun because not only are we talking a superhero film, but we're going down Cage Rage Road because we're talking 2007's Ghost Rider. And here to join me along this highway to hell is my lovely wife, Carrie. Carrie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Ride or die, baby. Ride or die.
Where are we riding to and why do we have to die?
And can we stop for Tim's along the way?
Exactly. Also, now I have Highway to Hell stuck in my head. So, and now you do too, dear listeners. So sorry, not sorry. So when I mentioned to you that, hey, let's do Ghost Rider, what was your first thought?
I was like, oh, this is a Marvel movie? because it's really, really digging in the crates. It's not one that generally pops up when you think of the Marvel Universe because it was pre-Marvel Universe, wasn't it?
It was. This movie came out in 2007. Iron Man came out in 2008, the birth of the MCU, if you will. But of course, there were a slew of Marvel movies to come before it. Some of them good, some of them not. But I'm not going to lie. This was a first watch for me. As much as a geek as I am, the idea of watching Nic Cage as Ghost Rider never seemed like a good idea until we had a podcast where we talk about movies that are poorly rated. Then it seems like a really, really good idea. So this is actually a first watch. So you're getting a very raw reaction on this one here. But before we go down that road, it is time to take this Marvel Mania movie and trailerize it.
It is the year 2007. Better known to modern horologists as the year 1 BIM, before Iron Man. It is a dark time when the fate of Marvel movies is left in the hands of people not named Kevin Feige. It's a world where the most insane thing isn't the action on the screen, but that they let the same guy who wrote Elektra have another go at a beloved character. Nic Cage is Johnny Blaze, a man who makes a deal with the devil and gets insane powers so that he can play the character of Ghost Rider. He'll use his cage rage to bring to life the daredevil motorcyclist as he looks to break his blood pact with Mephistopheles by going toe-to-toe with the son of the devil, Blackheart. So basically, he's dealing with someone else's goth emo brat who has some serious you can't tell me what to do daddy issues. I mean, come on. Clean up your own damn mess, demon boy. Johnny's got jelly beans to wine and dine on. Nic Cage is Ghost Rider. Rated PG-13. Because of course
it is. I would be curious. I'm not going to lie. I'd be curious because obviously this is, pre-Deadpool, right? This is before, you're really going to think about going down, an R-rated movie road. I'd be curious what a Ghost Rider movie rated R would look like.
I think it would be so much better if it were darker.
Right?
It does. It needs a darker tone and it needs a faster pace. Pacing needs to increase and definitely make it darker.
Right?
Yeah.
We literally need Daredevil and Ghost Rider to join forces with Moon Knight and Blade. That's what we need right now. Make it happen. But let's get the breakdown of who is actually in this film. The movie stars Nicolas Cage, Eva Mendes, Sam Elliott, Peter Fonda, Donald Logue, and Wes Bentley, with a very early career role for Rebel Wilson. It's not her first film role. There was one film before this. It didn't make much noise, and quite frankly, it wasn't big enough for me to remember what the name of the title is. Also, I didn't write it down. Good host I am, right? But it's not her first film. It's her second. However, there is an almost starring in this one. As Johnny Blaze, apparently Johnny Depp was interested in the film, and Eric Bana, who played the first Hulk in the Ang Lee directed Hulk film, was also in contention for this role. Now, I'm going to say this. Please do not watch the first Hulk film. Okay? Just don't. Save yourself. Ang Lee is a wonderful director. That's not the film to watch. But Johnny Depp as Johnny Blaze.
You know, I would absolutely love to live in a world where I see that. And then I think I would put Nic Cage as...
Mephisto?
Yes. Thank you.
You had the look and the nod of like, please don't make me say Mephistopheles.
Right?
Right? We'll just, from here on in, we're just going to call him Mephisto, right? We do not need to injure our tongue in any way by trying to say Mephistopheles far too many times. Also, I'm also the guy who apologizes for messing up names to begin with, so we're just going to call this a blanket statement, and that's why we're saying Mephisto. But Johnny Depp, I don't know if I like him in the role. I could see him in the role. I don't know if I'd like him in, at least not in that film.
I think it would be wonderful. I completely disagree. I would have loved to have seen that.
I think if the Marvel movies were in that stretch, like that really good second, third phase of Marvel stretch.
And if I can just make one request or one wish to this list, is I would love to see a different director.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because the film was written and directed by Mark Steven Johnson, who also directed Elektra and Daredevil. Like, that's something to be proud about.
I was going to say, I can see that. I can see the connection there.
Right. But there is an almost directed list for this. Stephen Norrington, who directed Blade and The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, was apparently in line to direct this, but then had to drop out. Now, Blade is good. Blade's a good film. Blade Trinity, not so much, but that's not his problem. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. This film, I liked it. I recognize why it definitely qualifies for this show, and one day we're going to have to go down LXG Road. I'm sorry, but it's not that bad, but it's definitely not the movie you want to put on your wall of fame. But there were a couple of other directors that were under consideration. Let me go through this list here, okay? Marcus Nispel, who also directed the remakes of Friday the 13th and Conan the Barbarian. You also had Alex Proyas, who directed The Crow, and we love The Crow. Like, there ain't nothing wrong with The Crow. But also apparently under consideration was one Mr. Robert Rodriguez.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Right?
Oh, please make it so.
One day.
One day.
I mean, I could see, now there are a couple of different Ghost Riders in comic book lore. I could easily see them trying to bring the Robbie Reyes version of Ghost Rider to the MCU, and it can even star the same person who was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm fine with that. Let Robert Rodriguez direct that one. That would be cool. Although, that being said, you know what? We're going to geek it a little bit later. Because I have thoughts. I have thoughts on Ghost Rider here, but in the grander scope of geekery.
Oh, dear.
Oh, we're going to get some geek talk going on here. But here's the funny thing. There was something missing in this film. The film is not starring Stan Lee. There was zero Stan Lee cameo in this.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Now, it's not the first time Stan Lee wasn't in a Marvel film. He wasn't in the Blade films. He wasn't in the Punisher films. He wasn't in either Ghost Rider. Elektra, he wasn't there. Man-Thing, he wasn't there. Also, Man-Thing was barely a movie. But we'll get to that one day. but it's not like this film stands out as being, one among the rest of them. Like, it's not like Stanley sat there and said, yeah, I ain't going anywhere near this. Like, it just wasn't, it didn't happen, right? Although, just be forewarned, you're not going to get that Stanley cameo. But it didn't affect the box office on this. The film actually had a budget of $110 million, according to IMDb. Domestically, it grossed $115 million and worldwide brought in $228 million. When it was debuting on the February 16th to 19th President's Day long weekend in 2007, it debuted at number 1 with $52 million. There were like 5 movies debuting that weekend. Bridge to Terabithia debuted at number 2 with $28.5 million. Music and Lyrics with Drew Barrymore, that was like $15 million at number 4. Daddy's Little Girls was at $13 million at number 5, and Breach debuted at number 6. So I mean, it's a good weekend at the box office. Of course, long weekends, right? Ghost Rider held on to number 1 for 2 weeks. In its third week, it was knocked out number 1 by Wild Hogs, of all movies. Ugh. Bad movie audience. And Zodiac debuted at number 2 that weekend. But however, when it comes to the accolades, he says with quotation fingers that you'll never see because it's an audio podcast, Nic Cage was nominated for Worst Actor at the Razzies that year. Now, it wasn't just this film. There was this, there was Next, and there was National Treasure Book of Secrets. All 3, same year. So it was basically one of those body of work nominations that the Razzies occasionally does. Yet still he lost to Eddie Murphy for Norbit. But over at the Saturn Awards that year, the film was nominated for Best Horror Film and lost to Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, I don't consider Ghost Rider a horror movie at all by any stretch.
I mean, in the pantheon of Marvel films at that time, this was probably the most horror film of them.
Nah. I mean, it wasn't even as dark as I would have liked it to have been. I would have liked to have seen, I think, a little bit more frightening scenes.
I mean, this is obviously before comic book movies had the clout that they could in order to be able to go that dark. I mean, yes, there was The Crow. I get it, right? It's a comic book film. It's dark. It's good, right? It proved it can be done. But we're talking Marvel properties. Marvel and DC properties were a little bit more, we need to make the money back. Crow.
It would have been so fantastic to have seen it by the same director.
Right. And that, I was about to say, with Alex Proyas under consideration to direct this film, it would have been very, very, very cool.
With that same style, for sure.
Right?
I think that's very much what it's missing.
Right. I mean, you have to think, too, with Robert Rodriguez being able to do Sin City. But again, these were non-Marvel DC comic book properties that had the ability to roll the dice and see what they could do. You weren't going to get that out of Marvel and DC at the time. Yeah.
I think I would have liked to have seen this being done in the style of a comic book. Like... help me out. Jonah Hex. You know what?
Jonah Hex was good. We talked about this during that Grading on a Curve episode. Jonah Hex was good, but the minute you say look like a comic book, I flash back to that Eric Bana starring Hulk movie directed by Ang Lee. Trust me, if you ever watch that film, and someday you may have to watch that film, my dear co-host, you're like, please let someone else come on the show and guest on that one. But
yeah, you didn't sell it very well in the intro, so I'm fearing that.
Can you imagine going to someone and saying, hey, sweetie, how about we sit down, have a nice little bowl of popcorn, and suffer 2 hours of pain for our art?
How to lose a friend or a date in 5 movies or less.
Right? Hulk would definitely be up there,
wow.
Right? Ooh, that's going to be a fun one there. But also the reason why we're here is the critics. Over at Metacritic, this film has a Metascore of only 35, and then over at Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is actually 48. The tomatometer, 27%. So I ask you before we get to the breakdown here, between audience and critic, right now, before we have our conversation and the breakdown, who's closer to what you feel this actually is?
Oh, I think it's such a wide range that I think the Metacritic score was actually more on point, being somewhere right down the middle at around 37.
35.
35, even better. Because, you know what? The movie, as it were, is lacking. The performances, although the calibers of the actors had so much more potential, but it was lacking. So I'm actually surprised that the audience score is as high as it is.
Well, I mean, there is something to be said about, and we're going to get to this a little bit, but there are some good things about this. Like, I actually, as we were watching this, right, Carrie's sitting there, on the couch, with her notebook going, gotta find something nice to say, nice to say, nice to say. This is the song she sings when we have some movies.
I almost quit last night. Dear listeners, he had to bribe me to come back on the show.
I said, sit down and finish watching this film, or we will watch that Hulk film. and it won't end well. But let's get to the breakdown here. And we're going to have to start with Johnny Blaze himself, Nic freaking Cage. Woo!
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 I love Nic Cage.
Right? I just went full Ric Flair on that one.
Yeah.
But how was Nic Cage for you?
Meh. He was, you know what? Again, disclaimer, I do love Nic Cage, and I love even more when he goes off unhinged. Like, he can do crazy like nobody else, but not this movie. It was disappointing. It was very disappointing because I think it had so much more potential, and it felt like he was
dialing it back.
I think he was being pulled back.
I do wonder. He lobbied hard to be in this film. Like, he's a comic book fan to begin with. The whole Cage name for his stage name, I mean, that comes from Luke Cage, apparently. He named his son Kal-El. So, there's that. Also, right now our kids are saying, "Oh, thank God you didn't call me Kal-El." No, that's okay, Han and Anakin. You guys will be fine. But
at least it was better than Darth.
You stopped me. You did stop me.
Or Jar Jar. Wow.
Misa make a bad choice.
Oh my God.
Right now our kids are sitting there going like, "Oh dear God, these are our parents. We're sorry."
Don't put Dad in charge of the naming.
But I mean, here's the thing. Apparently he also has a Ghost Rider tattoo. That they had to cover it up because, you're wearing the tattoo of the character you're about to play. Don't be that guy.
That's life in full circle. I almost kind of want to search him up now. Google image search him and see.
Google Nic Cage naked Ghost Rider tattoo.
So don't be, alarmed if you find that search later.
You're like, my search history requires private mode right now.
I think I might clear my cache after searching. Just in case,
There's some very interesting Google search history you have there. Like, all of a sudden, Google's going to send someone to the door going, "Is everything okay? Is everything okay?" I mean, it's a big deal for him, clearly, to be able to play this character. Like, he lobbied so much for this. He put a lot into this. So I wonder if there was a bit of trepidation in playing Johnny Blaze. But I'm going to use the same argument here that I used when we did the Suicide Squad. As Johnny Blaze, yes, I agree. He's dialed back quite a bit. However, when it's Ghost Rider, like when the full CG comes in on the skull and whatnot, which apparently, according to IMDb, that skull was actually made from like an X-ray of his head. That's what they used for the design.
Oh, cool!
Right,
very cool.
Ghost Rider looked cool. Ghost Rider sounded cool. Ghost Rider was menacing in this. Johnny Blaze, not so much.
And I think that's what was that was pulling me back. I'm like, no, you know what? I want to see more Cage rage.
The other thing too is like he played Johnny Blaze in a quirky way. You know, he sips jelly beans out of a wine glass. He likes to watch his monkey shows on TV. Like, I don't want kooky, quirky Johnny Blaze. We're talking about someone who has a blood pact with Mephistopheles, with the devil, right? Made the blood pact. By the way, spoilers like a mofo. Made the blood pact, basically got a day extra with his father, and, or maybe even, you know, quickened his demise. Just didn't have to watch him suffer through the whole thing. Like, there's a lot of character depth that could be there, and it was replaced with like almost Sandlerisms, right? Remember we've said this before with Adam Sandler films. He'll find like one quirk and like play it to death, right? Here it's like, okay, how could I make this Johnny Blaze unique? Oh, he has jelly beans in a wine glass. That's what he does. Like, I get it doesn't drink, gives him nightmares. I get that part. Don't make it odd.
Well, I wonder how much of that is. I mean, he was an adult though when he lost his father. It's not like he was a child.
No, not.
He was still very childlike though.
Well, young teen kind of thing, or older teen.
But he was old enough to, you know, fall in love and leave his girlfriend behind. So, I mean, it would have, I think, made more sense to the storyline if he was, in fact, you know, between the ages of like 5 and 7, because he was very childlike. He was very, you know, his handlers had to very much keep him out of trouble and take care of him. And I think the girlfriend kind of like, I don't know, maybe kept him on the straight and narrow. I don't know. Like
I don't think, like, he was old enough, right, to be, you know, riding this motorcycle in this performance. Like he was doing the show, right? Like, and if you actually read, like, I actually downloaded the Ghost Rider Epic Collection from our local library through, you know, and flipped through the pages just to see what the origin story was like in comparison to this. And it's not exact, but it's not far off, right? Like, this felt a bit more natural. Obviously, the comic books back then were going to be, you know, they're going to be over the top and whatnot. But I mean, it's not that far off of what you expect from a Ghost Rider movie, right? And the fact that you have, you know, a director who's familiar enough with the Marvel movies that this is his third, and, you know, someone who basically has Ghost Rider on his body that needs to be covered up. It takes away, I think, from the darkness that Johnny Blaze is dealing with. God damn it, Nic Cage. Go crazy. We want crazy Nic Cage. Not City of Angels Nic Cage. We need Willy's Wonderland Nic Cage. Bring us that one.
Yes. And I think that's what I was hoping for.
See, and that's the funny thing, because we watched Willy's Wonderland, and unfortunately, that movie does not qualify for this podcast, so we don't get to talk about that one.
It's just that good, friends. You
right?
need to check it out if you haven't.
You tell me, okay, that Nic Cage as Ghost Rider.
Yes.
Right?
That's what I wanted to see, for sure. Like, I mean, that definitely would have, it would have improved the movie. Yeah. I'm just going to put it out there. It would have made it better.
And the fact that his character in Willy's Wonderland, which, by the way, if you like Five Nights at Freddy's, just go find that movie and watch it, because it is so much fun. The fact that he's driving like this like black sports car kind of thing, it almost feels like the Robbie Reyes version of Ghost Rider, which, of course, that character appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We need more Ghost Rider. Marvel, make it happen. Eva Mendes as Roxanne Simpson. How was she for you?
Meh. You know what? I think she's wonderful. I've always really liked her as an actress, and I was super excited to see that she was in this movie as the love interest. But there was something. At first, she was, you know, trying too hard to be so cold and, you know, just like standoffish, and she wasn't going to, she was not going to allow herself to fall back for him. But I don't know. I think where I totally lost it was that scene where she's talking with his handlers, and she's like, "But I love him." It's like, oh, really? That is the most unconvincing, I don't know, declaration of love that I think I've ever seen. I'm like, I just found she is an incredibly talented actress, but what happened? Where is evidence of that in this movie?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can I borrow a soapbox here? It's time to get on the soapbox.
Please step up to the plate.
This film is criminal in its misusage of an actress like Eva Mendes. You are absolutely right. It is a horrible waste of good talent. Like, you have someone who has the ability to be in a comic book movie and fit the mold. For the record, this film came out in 2007. The character, at a younger age, a father's death happens, and the tragedy of it and the resulting feelings of that drive the young couple apart, only for her to find her way back into his life after he gets, otherworldly mystical superhero powers. 2008, in The Spirit, the young couple, the character played by Eva Mendes, the young couple version, a father's death happens. They're split up by the tragedy that it creates. She comes back into his life after he gets otherworldly superhero powers. Do you see a pattern here, people? But I tell you, she was so much better in The Spirit. It's because the character's written better. I
think a lot of it had to do with the direction, though.
Yeah, but and the writing, right?
Yeah.
Now, the fact that it's the same person. Now, that being said, I also just say that apparently Nic Cage did do some rewrites of the script while they were filming. So the ghostwriter was actually a ghostwriter on this.
That's good. But I really felt like that scene where they reconnect, where she's interviewing him.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like, I don't know, like, was he hit on the head before conducting that interview? Because
I think he was just in shock that it's her.
It was overdone, that scene. I was just like, are you okay? Like, did that fall off the bike really kind of scramble your eggs a little bit? Like, because you're just, wow, not there.
But here's where I actually have something good to say about her. Okay. And
that's why we're here, of course.
Exactly. So as much as this character is poorly written, there is one aspect of it that I actually really enjoyed about her, right? They could have written her to be bitter because he left her, right? Still angry to this day kind of thing. But she's sitting there saying, like, I get it. Your dad died. You didn't know how to process it. You reacted this way. I understand. She's rational at that point.
I think they tried it first, but there was that turnabout.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, like, when he's, first talking to her, right, like afterwards kind of thing, she's saying, it's okay, I understand, you don't have to feel bad, right? Like, I get your life, your world turned upside down. You were processing to the best of your not grown up abilities at that point. Like, I understand. That is good writing.
What she didn't know is that he was in a deal with the devil and told to basically leave her.
Mephistopheles.
Mm-hmm.
The safe word is Mephistopheles.
I don't know. I liked her hair. Her hair was on point. It always is, though. My God, she's absolutely stunning. Also,
if the safe word is Mephistopheles and you can't say Mephistopheles, you're in for some trouble.
Mephisto! No, that's not the safe word.
No, all someone hears is fist at that point, and it goes south from there.
Wow, the show just took a wrong turn.
Ride or die, baby. Ride or die. Let's move on to Sam Elliott here as the caretaker.
Love.
Okay. Tell me how you feel.
Oh, you know what? All you have to do is say Sam Elliott, and I'm like, yes! Favorite actor.
Wait, hold on. We're talking about Sam Elliott, the caretaker.
He's so good.
Yeah, when you can understand him.
Oh my God, he's so good. He's such a great actor.
Okay. Yes, he's good in this role. Yes, the role fits him like a glove. I still think he was better when he was in that horrible Hulk movie we've been talking about, because he was General Ross in that one. And I say that for one thing. Up to the big fight at the end, I loved him in this role. It was perfect for him. But then he's like, all right, I got one last ride in me. Hops on the horse, turns into the Ghost Rider, and they have this really cool scene where they're racing towards the final fight with Blackheart. And then they get there, and he turns around and goes, all right, you're on your own there, Chuckles. I'm out of here. And rides off and like disappears. Like,
see ya.
Right? Like, I get it's a cool visual, but what the were you there for?
To lead him.
Like, I get he's got to be the Obi-Wan for Johnny Blaze. I get that he's supposed to impart the wisdom because he himself also had a pact with Mephistopheles. I said it again, safe word. But then they do this big ride scene. They get to the big fight, and he's like, this, I'm out of here.
I don't get paid enough for this shit.
Right? Literally, like, and his little girl like, all right, I'm out of here. This is the end of the line for me. No, yourself. Oh, Sam Elliott, we love you.
He's a smart man.
It's like you had this big build up, and then it's like, you, I'm out of here. Whew. I can't take my ass all the way, back into the. Whew. Movie needs more words, gooder words, make it happen. But you're right, he is quite good in this, like as that Obi-Wan-esque type character, with the same blood pact made with Mephisto. Like, you couldn't have asked. I'm like, apparently, John Voight was under consideration for this movie kind of thing, and was at one point attached, but then when things got pushed back, he had to step away. I'm so glad John Voight was not the caretaker, because I watched Anaconda. I don't want that character in this movie. No.
It might have been a different character, though. It might have been played differently, but still.
Yeah.
Don't replace Sam Elliott, please.
No. That's Sam Elliott's an upgrade.
I was so excited to see him.
Donald Logue, who played Mac, Johnny Blaze is like the head of his crew kind of thing, the best friend. And you mentioned him earlier in that scene with Eva Mendes'
But
character.
I love him.
Right? But how was he for you?
He was good. He was good. I really like that. It's almost kind of like he was the brains of the operation. I don't know, which is.
She says with quotation fingers, you'll never see because this is an audio podcast. I mean, most superhero movies and have that, for lack of a better term, non-superhero sidekick, right? So you're thinking Daredevil, this is Foggy Nelson, right? This is the character that Johnny needs. He
was loyal to the end. He was a loyal friend.
Yeah, and he fit the mold of like pit crew for a Daredevil stuntman, right? Like he made sense in this. He felt right in that role.
Now, what's the backstory? Were they childhood friends?
No. I think it's basically like he's like pit crew.
Or was he part of his dad's crew?
No. I don't think he was part of his dad's crew. I think this is the show he built, and this is the pit crew that he has to help him, and they just became like best of friends on the road kind of thing. So, again, I'm not fully up on comic book lore, so I don't know if the character of Mac is from the comic books or not. I don't know if it's a rework. Please, comic book geeks, let me know if you know of Mac in the comic books at all, which is kind of good though, right? Because this is a first watch for me. But I never sat and read Ghost Rider comic books. So I got to go into this clean slate, complete clean slate with no preconceived notions of this, right? And we talked about this with Jonah Hex over on the last the first Grading on a Curve episode. Not having, the deep love of the character and knowledge of the character and the backstory allows you to be able to take everything from the film as it's presented to you without sitting there going, well, they didn't do this, and when this character is supposed to be a redhead or something like that. No, it's movie good, right? If you go in without those preconceived notions, right? You never watched or read a Ghost Rider comic book.
No, and it was literally a first watch. It was like, oh, this exists? Okay, well, let's go.
Yeah, it's you go with, oh, this exists, to afterwards going, oh, this exists, right? It's all in the tonality of how you say it. Let's get to the baddies here. Wes Bentley as Blackheart. How was he for you?
He was cool. He was very scary.
Mm-hmm. Now, we're not going to get into his lifestyle at the time. We are literally just talking about him in this movie because apparently, according to IMDb, this was in the middle of a stretch where he was apparently, and again, we don't know because we don't know these people kind of thing. We're just telling you what we read on our research. Apparently he was like heavy into like heroin apparently at the time, and he was taking movies so he could buy more.
I could kind of see that though, and I think it helped. I mean, he as far as, again, completely unknowing of his personal life or his addiction issues, he was really good. He was really scary. Like after watching it, I was kind of like, ooh, I just don't want him to come after me because yeah, he was trying to collect like 1,000 souls.
Yeah, and it feels like, and this is kudos to him on this one. It feels like this fight between him and his father has been going on for centuries upon centuries, and like Mephisto, consistently uses the Rider as his champion in fending him off. So the dynamic, not that you really saw them against each other at all, but the dynamic between Blackheart and Mephisto, like there was like one scene where they're like set up, the power struggle between the two of them. It makes sense.
I just have a question. So, and maybe I missed something, but the caretaker, Sam Elliott, was a Ghost Rider.
He's a rider, yeah.
As well. How many of them are there?
I don't know how many there are in total.
But there's more.
I mean, yes, Robbie Reyes eventually becomes the Ghost Rider as well. Like, obviously, and then I think there's Vengeance in the comic books as well. Like there's lore, right? Like, you're going to see in the next Spider-Verse film just exactly how many different Spider-Men there are. But, that's comic books. Comic books are going to comic book. I mean, there's like a Ghost Rider 2099. It's basically whoever Mephisto chooses to be his rider from people that he has a blood pact with. He basically uses the Rider as his champion against Blackheart. At least that's the way the movie portrays it. But Wes Bentley did a very, very good job. And, joke all you want about the goth emo look, but this is 2007, and that's kind of where, your darkness imbued bad guys are. But speaking of bad guys, let's talk about Peter Fonda as Mephistopheles.
Mephisto.
That is not the safe word. How was Peter Fonda for you?
You know what? I thought he was great. I thought, again, very commanding, very very solid in his role. Like, very believable and frightening.
I like the fact that he played it cool. Right? Mm-hmm. Wes Bentley was playing it a bit more over the top, bit more, comic booky. Whereas Peter Fonda comes in, it's quiet. He's menacing in his presence.
Yes, unassuming and just,
he's not there to yell at you. He doesn't need to yell. He's Mephisto. He has the power. He doesn't need to, be over the top. That's his son's gig, right? It's a prestige casting, right? We're talking like a prestige. We're talking a guy who was in Easy Rider. Right? Which apparently, and as I was reading this is kind of funny. At one point in time, Marvel Comics was putting out these like little trading cards of the different characters. And one of them apparently was of Ghost Rider. And in the speak bubble on the picture, because of course Peter Fonda was in Easy Rider, it's Ghost Rider going, Peter Fonda, look out. So the fact that Peter Fonda was referenced in a Ghost Rider playing card is really, really cool. But I mean, the superhero film genre is built and made on the villains. And you're taking a look at the main super characters or the main good characters, and every time you're like meh, 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 you get to the villains, you're like, now we're talking. And I think that's where
so true.
That's where Ghost Rider, I think, really does nail it. Say what you will about Cage Rage, lack thereof, need more, need less, whatever, right? Say what you will about the utter lack of proper usage of a good Eva Mendes. The villains worked in this for what you needed. And Ghost Rider nailed that. If you had a great Ghost Rider but a crappy Mephisto, meh. Looking at you, Spawn, right? Spawn had a great Spawn, but not the best villains. Ghost Rider, maybe not the best Ghost Rider, but you had a really great Mephisto and a really good Blackheart. But I have to ask you though, right? Now we've gone through like the main actors here kind of thing. In the pantheon of, let's put the MCU aside, because this is pre-MCU. This is pre-Kevin Feige, conservatorship of everything cool coming out of the Marvel factory here. You take a look at films like Daredevil, the X-Men films, the Spider-Man films of that era, right? Like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films. You had some decent superhero films, right? We all agree that the first two Spider-Man films were great. We all agree, I think, that the first two X-Men films were really good. Then you had a bunch of others, right? Punisher Warzone, Blade Trinity, Spider-Man 3 with goth emo Peter Parker.
Now, does Venom qualify?
Nope. No, because that's like into like during the MCU time, but that's Sony taking care of that, and yet still sort of pseudo tied into that. No, I'm talking like pre-Kevin Feige taking over everything, right? This is, in that hole, you could sit there and say, and this is me personally saying, I think Ghost Rider holds up to films. It's better than X-Men: The Last Stand. It's better than Spider-Man 3, or at least on par with Spider-Man 3. It's definitely better than Elektra. Right?
Yes.
But as a superhero film for you, because we're talking about the genre as a whole, how was this for you?
You know what? It's funny because I always start out thinking, "Oh my God, this is a horrible movie. I have nothing good to say." But then as we talk about it, I appreciate it more, and I'm sitting here now thinking, well, I mean, it really wasn't that bad. I even tried to give it a second watch today.
But work got in the way.
Well, yeah, life and work and other things distracted me. I was distracted. However, you know what? It really wasn't that bad, but it could have been better.
I mean, I can see that. I really can. Obviously, any movie can be better. Right. But I think, I mean, if you're looking to compare this movie to Infinity War, just don't. Right. No movie compares to Infinity War or Endgame. But if you take a look back at 2007 and superhero movies that were coming out around that time, this definitely stands up as actually one of the better ones. Now, also, too, I think, okay, I have to tell the story. So I brought Carrie to the theaters to watch X-Men. She fell asleep during the big fight scene at the end. We're talking about a girl who fell asleep at a Rush concert during the drum solo. My lovely wife has movie narcolepsy.
Yep, during Top Gun, during the big air fight scene. Yep.
The louder the scene, the more likely my wife to fall asleep.
I get bored. I'm like, okay, they're fighting. Time for me to close my eyes.
But give
me the storyline.
But really, there was none of that big bombastic kind of big fight scene in this.
And I stayed awake, didn't I?
Yeah. Like, that's the thing that surprised me. At no point did I have to sit there and nudge you going, come on, you got to make it to the end. Come on. There wasn't, people make fun of Marvel movies today where, like, you get to the end and it's like basically a bunch of like CGI vapor clouds attacking each other. Hello, Morbius. But
3 hours later.
But this didn't have that. It was a very mono kind of almost cathartic fight at the end.
Well, I will say that it kept me intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the character build was well enough or good enough. It was good, but it caught my attention, and I saw it through to the end. So I think, kudos to the writing for that.
Yeah. I mean, there are some decent aspects to the writing. There are some aspects of the writing we could sit there and go,
You know what it was? I was waiting for that very last scene where they were back at their tree forever and ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it bookended nicely. And the fact that it wasn't like they did live happily ever after, because he said they couldn't be together. He was going to go off and use his power to combat Mephistopheles. For the record, by the way, there is a Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance sequel, and I know it qualifies. So we may have to revisit Nic Cage world. But I will say this. I'm going to put this out there now. Given that Marvel is in the multiverse saga, and given that characters from past Marvel movies and eras are starting to make their way into this, do you foresee the MCU ever contacting Nic Cage saying, hey, want to be Ghost Rider again for a movie?
I hope so.
Would you want to see that?
Oh my God. I mean, here's what I want to see. I want to see like a Blade Ghost Rider matchup.
Well, I mean, they're making Blade now, but not with Wesley Snipes.
No?
No.
Why?
It's Mahershala Ali.
Not bad, but I like Wesley Snipes.
I mean, Wesley Snipes is great, yes, but Mahershala Ali is then with the new Blade. But I mean, you have these characters now where you could easily do a Midnight Suns type film, or at least a Disney Plus production, because you got Ghost Rider, you got Blade, you've got Moon Knight. Mm-hmm. Right? You have all these darker characters that you've got Daredevil back, right? Charlie Cox is back. You could easily put him there, right? You get Elodie Young to come back and be Elektra. You could have this Dark Avengers type team up, a secondary version of Thunderbolts after whatever's going to happen with the next the first Thunderbolts project. So you have these characters that could be put together. I don't know if Nic Cage fits in that, but in a multiverse kind of thing, it would be a great cameo.
Well, I was kind of thinking the whole, like, I don't know, fighting the devil and having, like, Blade, who was a vampire, right? Mm-hmm. So
maybe Doctor Strange involved somehow. That could work.
I don't know. Some Jessica Jones, or bring back Kilgrave.
Oh,
any excuse to bring David Tennant back.
Right. Although that being said, hear me out. Mephistopheles, as played by Michael Sheen.
He could play anything. Oh my God, though. Kilgrave meets up with Moon Knight. I'm down with that. In one of the dream sequences. Yes. Because he was very mind controlling, right? It's too bad that they've killed off Iron Man, because there was an episode of Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes where Kilgrave basically took control of the Avengers, and you had like Emperor Stark, and that would have been cool. By the way, the voice of Kilgrave in that animated series, Brent Spiner. Ooh. Right? I don't hate that, but Gotta bring back David Tennant. Okay, now we're done our fan cast here for our future, for the Marvel. By the way, Kevin Feige, you're welcome. But, take notes. Right? He's sitting there listening to the podcast going, well, that's a good idea. That's not a good idea. We'll scratch that one. Okay, but before we go, it is time. So, Carrie, who is your MVP of Ghost Rider? Oh, Sam Elliott. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Sorry, Nick. Sorry, Mr. Cage. I'm sorry, Eva Mendes. You were lovely. Rebel Wilson, you were fun. I mean, is she really acting? I literally picture that's how she is.
She Rebel
in
Wilson.
real life.
Yep.
like if you would meet her on the street, she would be exactly the same character that she was in this. Is it Pitch Perfect or something like that? Yeah. I mean, she's just darling. I like her. I when given the choice, always pick Sam Elliott.
Okay. I'm not.
No,
because I was given the choice. I didn't pick Sam Elliott.
No, that's my rule then.
Oh, well, okay. Because I went with Wes Bentley. I went with the baddie. I went with Blackheart here. I thought about Peter Fonda. I did. Because he was great in this. But I don't think he was in it enough to convince me to pick him over Wes Bentley. Right? As the son of Mephisto. As basically because the scenes where he was taking the souls, right, and basically touching the skin and the turn blue, and basically like that was cool. And there's a lot of good CGI in this. There's some that's not so good, but there's a lot of good CGI in this. That was a very, very cool way of to see him taking the souls and basically gaining strength from them. So, and Wes Bentley gave a very good 2007 comic book villain performance. But Carrie, thank you. And I will apologize in advance if we ever have to cover the Hulk, or Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, or League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. We've mentioned a lot of films on this episode alone where I'm going to apologize in advance if we ever have to go down that road.
I'm still accepting apologies for Elektra.
We may have to do Daredevil too. That's the trifecta right there. Now, dear listeners, you guys know the drill. If there is a movie out there that you think is unfairly maligned or is just so bad that there's no way in heck that we can find anything good to say about it.
But say hi to Mephisto while you're there.
If you can say it, Mephistopheles. Hit us up on Twitter at NotThatBadcast, or go to our website, notthatbadcast.com. While you're there, we have a coming soon page. You can see some of the movies that we're getting ready to talk about. So there's a comment section. Drop us a line. Let us know what you thought of those films. Get a shout out in the show. We'd love to hear from you guys. Until next time, she's Carrie. I'm Jay. You guys are awesome. This is It's Not That Bad. Take care.
Hey folks, Stefan Shirazi and Renee Richardson here from the Metallica Report.
And we are proud members of the Pantheon podcast family, where the best of music and podcasts unite.
We've got something pretty cool for you. We're giving away an exclusive Metallica merch package worth over $250.
That's a whole lot of Scary Guys, Skulls, M72, and other sought-after Metallica swag. And we've made it easy for you to win. Follow and share the Metallica Report, and you're in the game. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Metallica, enter your email, and hit that button to be entered to win.
And just like that, you're eligible for our monthly exclusive Metallica merch package.
And guess what, rockers? You can enter every month, so just do it. And while we love our global brothers and sisters, the lawyers won't let us ship outside the U.S.